The interpretations of Pablo Picasso's Guernica are wide and varied, but in order to understand the interpretations of the painting, you must understand how Picasso first found out about the bombing. When Picasso read George Steere's news story about the bombing of the quiet village of Guernica, his reaction was to retaliate with a paintbrush. The quiet little village did not contain even one strategic target. The bombing took place on the town's market day, the most crowded day of the week. Even worse, as many of the men had left the village to fight, women and children comprised the majority of the victims. Clearly, Picasso took issue. According to a PBS article, Picasso once said, "A painting is not thought out and settled in advance. It changes as one's thoughts change." Following the bombing, Picasso sketched hundreds of preliminary drawings. Still, according to Retro Kimmer, pop culture critic and blogger, Guernica, possibly Picasso's most famous painting, was completed in a mere 24 frenetic days. The oil on canvas painting has been cited by many as resembling the work of a madman and is void of color. It is a portrait of contrast in black, white, and gray. Art lover David Sullivan was surprised to find that there was no color in the painting, remarking that both color and life had seemingly been drained from its surface, with only extremes of gray and silence. No doubt this was Picasso's plan, to intensify the idea of lifelessness through the absence of color. However, there is more to it, according to Alejandro Escalona. The blacks, whites, and grays startle us, especially because we are used to seeing war images broadcasted live and in high definition right into your living room. However, even without the use of colors that one might associate with other Picasso paintings, it overwhelms viewers through both its size and subject matter. Guernica is a massive piece of art. The mural-sized painting measures 11 feet tall by 25.6 feet wide. According to one source, the mammoth canvas was a challenge from the beginning, and it had to be tilted to fit under the rafters of the ceiling of Picasso's studio. Though interpretations of Guernica are many and varied, one idea is unarguably portrayed in black and white. Guernica is a tragic and emotional portrayal of devastation. The first image depicted on the left is of a mother who stands with her head tilted back in a gut-wrenching scream as she holds the dead body of her child, limbs askew. Rudolf Arnheim wrote, "The women and children make Guernica the image of innocent, defenseless humanity, victimized. Women and children have often been presented by Picasso as the very perfection of mankind. An assault on women and children is, in Picasso's view, directed at the core of mankind." This is probably why a bull, which Picasso attributed to darkness and brutality, stands over the woman, possibly hinting at Picasso's attitude toward the politics present within Spain. Critics have suggested that Picasso was playing upon the allegory of the bullfight, but here the primitive urgings of the beast emerge as the victor. The next image is that of a dead warrior who is still clinging to a broken sword. It is almost as if his sword is portrayed as useless. This could represent the futility of the citizens to run from the bombs and machine guns that mercilessly slaughtered the villagers in shifts. On the warrior's other hand is a carved stigmata symbol, furthering the idea of sacrifice. Near the middle of the painting, a horse is depicted falling in pain after it has been impaled by some sort of spear. Some interpretations hold that the horse is being gored by a bull from below. In addition, some have described what appears to be a human skull superimposed on the body of the horse. A condemnatory tone is present, which artist Tony Robbins credits to Picasso's abstract cubist technique. Through the use of geometrical shapes, the dead almost appear as fragments of glass, shattered by the violence. The subjects appear as primitively deformed and almost inhuman, embodying the suffering that occurred on April 26, 1937. In the original news story that Picasso read from the Times of London, news correspondent George Steere wrote about the horrors of Guernica, saying it was a horrible sight, flaming from end to end. The reflection of the flames could be seen in the clouds of smoke above the mountains from 10 miles away. Throughout the night, houses were falling until the streets became long heaps of red, impenetrable debris, and farmhouses burned like little candles in the hills. The fires were so bad that author Dave Bowling, in his book Guernica, wrote, "Sheep ignited and their wool burned black as they tried to butt their way out of pens. Everything burned." Guernica was engulfed in fire. Since George Steere's news report was the impetus for Picasso's Guernica, the influence of this report is evident in the painting, especially with regard to the element of fire. Picasso depicts fire from the beginning of his painting to the end. On the left, the bull's tail is formed by smoke and/or fire. On the right, there is a person with arms outstretched as if begging for help from the flames that appeared. A small window can be seen in the background. The window seems to represent escape, but it is impossibly small and high off the ground. Worse yet, fire can be seen above the window. By depicting the person surrounded by fire, the painting communicates a bleak picture of the attack on Guernica and the inability for its residents to survive. Picasso was once quoted as saying, "What do you think an artist is? An imbecile who has only eyes if he is a painter, or ears if he is a musician?" He went on to say that there was more to an artist, that an artist was also a political being who was constantly aware of the heartbreaking, passionate, or delightful things that happened in the world. Picasso definitely had his eye on the events that occurred in the world, yet one detail that I did not find mentioned during my research was the repetition of an eye shape in Guernica. The gaping wound in the side of the horse, which is almost the center of the painting, has been cited in various interpretations as the primary focus of the artwork. Interestingly, this gash looks like a closed eye. The eye lesion appears in the middle of the horse. In addition, a newsprint pattern of sorts covers the horse. This is the only place in the painting that this newsprint pattern appears. This closed eye may be Picasso's symbolic illustration of a world that chooses to disregard the atrocities that were committed in the name of war. Picasso's goal? To open the world's eyes. In Guernica, the sun is also shaped like an eye. It appears to look on from above in the way that God might. However, the eye is again closed, almost as if God has given up on man. There does not seem to be hope. However, despite the darkness of the painting, light exists. A light bulb shape appears within the eye of the sun as a flashlight of sorts, flooding the scene below for all to see. It is interesting to note that some critics have attributed the presence of the light bulb in association with the Spanish word for light bulb, which is bombilla. In this way, the light bulb serves to better illuminate violent and chaotic aftermath left by the bombs. Writer Alejandro Escalano points out a woman just to the right of the horse, who is peeking through a sort of door along with another person. Both have expressions of disbelief. They appear to be witnessing the tragedies around them. Escalano claims that the woman is holding up a lamp so that all may bear witness to the calamities of war. The lights within the painting also serve to highlight the fact that Guernica must never be forgotten. Possibly, if the mistakes of the past are observed, progress might be made and there still may be hope. This idea of hope can be seen in the flower also, which Alejandro Escalano identifies as a lone lily, which grows under the horse near the bottom of the painting. This flower is out of place amid the other images of death and suffering. Although the lily is barely noticeable, it perseveres, growing in the midst of what Alejandro calls a swirling madness. The presence of the flower has been widely debated. Possibly Picasso's justification for painting the lily would be that it functioned as a symbol of his lingering hope for humanity. 2014 marks the 77th anniversary of both the bombing of the Basque town of Guernica and the creation of Pablo Picasso's mural. After nearly a century, the debate rages on over the meanings within Picasso's famous painting. Picasso would no doubt appreciate this dialogue. After all, he once remarked that it isn't up to the painter to define symbols. The public must interpret the symbols as they understand them.